Welcome to an episode of Chat Sports Talker. Welcome to Week 15 of the 2024 NFL season. We are down to the final month of the regular season. And only 3 playoff positions have been clinched. 2 divisions have been clinched. But now it's time to separate the haves from have-nots, figure out who's going to get in, who's going to get to that dance, that second chance to redefine themselves to lift Vince Lombardi's trophy. But before we dive into Week 15, full slate of games, we get to look back at Week 14, look what it did, do a quick fire round of the games out there, and kind of give my 2 cents on a couple of games. Try to do this really quick because, like I said, it's a full slate of games, so I don't spend too much time talking about last week. But speaking of last week, I actually went 9-4. I started off really good. It seems my curse of Thursday night has maybe I've broken that, but we'll see. Only lost one of the early games. The late afternoon games, I lost all 3 of those, and I finished strong. So let's go kick off really quick of last Thursday. Great back-and-forth battle between the Packers and the Lions. I think much what everyone expected. Campbell definitely went for, I think, way too much on 4th down. But it paid off, especially at the end when 4th down. Instead of kicking a field goal, he actually went for it on 4th down, get a little more extra yards, burn off those extra seconds, kick a game winner. Lions win 34-31, punching their ticket to the postseason. Goff had a very productive day, 32-41 for 283 yards, 3 touchdowns. And Detroit looks like a team to really watch out for this postseason. On Sunday, we head into Nashville, where I thought the Titans will have their way with the Jaguars. Well, Mac Jones has stepped into the role as the starter. You know, he threw 2 picks, and Pollard had over 100 yards rushing for the Titans. But they were able to score 10 points at the end of the game to upend the Titans 10-6. Head down to South Beach, where the Jets gave Dolphins more than they could handle. I mean, the game went into OT, where the flip of the coin, Dolphins had it, drove all the way down, scored a touchdown, that was it. Miami escapes the Jets to keep their slim playoff hopes alive. Kirk Cousins returned to Minnesota, and it wasn't even close. Sam Darnold, 5 touchdowns he threw for almost 350 yards. He decimated Atlanta, especially when it came to that 4th quarter. I mean, early on, it was close. It went back and forth, 14-10 at the half, 24-21 heading into that final quarter, and that's when lights went out for Atlanta. As Kirk Cousins continued to throw more interceptions than touchdowns. They were to the city of brotherly love, where the Eagles play host to the Panthers, and the Panthers gave them more than they could handle. It was a back-and-forth contest. They limit the abilities of Bryce Young in passing. No one had over 50 yards receiving. Actually, no one even get close to 50 yards. I mean, I think Hollywood Brown was the closest, and he's like 43. They gave the ball to Saquon. He dictated most of the game. He had over 100 yards in the air, or on the ground, excuse me. And when it comes to the 4th quarter, the Eagles end up getting the edge, going up 22-16. Thielen dropped the ball. That was set up a game-winning field goal. And the Eagles escaped Carolina. Carolina has been playing really tough against really good teams. They're going to catch somebody. Rematch between the Browns and the Steelers. I mean, early on, yeah, it was Cleveland, but I think that was just the first quarter, and then that's when the Steelers showed up and they took over. James Winston didn't have much of a chance. You know, he still ended up having 2 touchdowns, but it was all Steelers all day long. Wilson had 2 touchdowns for himself. And it wasn't for all the mistakes Cleveland did. It'd be a different story, but they might as well put yellow in their jersey color because, you know, they saw a lot of that against the Steelers and ended up winning 27-14. Out there in Glendale, where the Cardinals playing host to the Seahawks, this is where I thought Kyler Murray and the Cardinals would actually get, you know, even up with the Seahawks, keeping them in the race of the division. As I think where the true Cardinals showed up. The Cardinals I thought would probably show up. But Charbonnet was a huge factor in this one. Over 135 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns. Arizona had no answers for him, as the Seahawks just rolled over Arizona 30-18 to have a firm grip on the NFC West. The Bills head out to Hollywood to take on the Rams. And despite Josh Allen setting NFL marks of 6 touchdowns, 3 in the air, 3 on the ground. They had to go all the way back to the 1950s with Otto Graham and the Cleveland Browns for a quarterback to put that many on the board on both rushing and throwing. As Matthew Stafford just kept finding Puka Nacua, who had a career day of 162 yards. I mean, he had one of the most ridiculous catches, most well-defended route. Pushed him towards the sideline, had to go over to the defender, out in the reach. Puka went out there to grab it and still maintain his tippy toes in bounds, as the Rams just outgunned Buffalo 44-42. The game that I was high in picking, there's only one way to put about it. I figured, once Eberflus let go, whole new Bears concept, they'll get that boost of new energy and new coaching energy to boost them up. No, they took like 30 steps backwards as the 49ers just rolled Chicago 38-13. Chargers went to Kansas City. I almost went with the Chargers in this game, but because how Kansas City always seemed to find ways to win, it was evident in this game. This was a back-and-forth game where Kansas City was controlling the game that first half, up 13-0 at the half. I'm like, wow, this is going to be a lot more of a blowout than I thought it was. The Chargers came back. Actually put themselves scored 2 touchdowns in that third frame. Herbert had over 200 yards in the air and a touchdown. And then we head to that final frame where the Chargers had a 1-point advantage, 17-16. Kansas City went marching down again. Kelsey made a game-clutching catch. As he always seems to do, he's not the premier receiver. He's just the clutch receiver. And I think that's what you really want. As he set up a game-winning field goal. And Chiefs luck, hit the upright, bounced in. That's just the Chiefs this year. They are not dominant. They're just lucky, and that's all it is. They are lucky, and that's the only reason why I picked them, because I knew it was going to be a close game. They always seem to find ways to win close games. It always comes down to something to do with the field goal. I mean, they blocked the one for Denver. They had a game winner in Charlotte, the game winner here. The Raiders had to fumble the ball for them to win that one, or to guarantee their win in that one. I mean, it's just their season. And then Monday night, I picked the Bengals. It's like the Bengals need to win. Burrow has had career numbers, and they can't seem to win. Well, the defense is part of the problem. But Burrow, almost 370 yards. He was 1 yard short. 3 touchdowns, 2 of them going to Jamar Chase for 177 yards. And it came down to the fourth quarter as these two went back and forth. Bengals are punting. The Cowboys blocked the punt. Let's keep that in fact. They blocked the punt. The blocked punt still went past the line of scrimmage. A Cowboy attempted to field it. It took a bad hop, brushed off his shoulder. Live ball. Cincinnati recovered. New set of downs. And Jamar Chase was able to elude anyone. Had very loose coverage, so he's just going for the first down, but then he had nothing but green turf ahead of him. Outran 3 other defenders to score his second touchdown. And the game winner as Cincinnati finally lifted a little bit of a curse and won 27-20. And it's just going to be a very unique offseason for the Cowboys. I think this season's pretty much a wash. I don't see them coming back from this one, even though they still have a chance. Or Christmas from Dumb and Dumber. So there's a chance. No, there's no chance for Dallas to make the playoffs. That's just, take that out of the equation now. Because you still have the Rams and 49ers ahead of them. And those teams aren't even in the playoffs. So all the buys are done. It's going to be a full slate. We'll have a huge matchups. So let's go ahead and kick things off. Thursday Night Football on Prime Video. The 49ers play host to their arch rival Rams in Santa Clara. This is going to be dangerous because with Matthew Stafford healthy, Cooper Kupp healthy, Puka Nacua healthy, you still got Williams. That's still going, Kyrene Williams being healthy in the backfield. The Rams are going to be a tough team to knock out. The 49ers not having running backs doesn't seem to really bother them too much because they were able to use Kittle, use Debo to really, and Ayuk to really dictate the game and be able to protect Brock Purdy. The Rams defense is solid as Swiss cheese. And it'll make things a little difficult for him. The 49ers front will make it interesting for Stafford, but he had the Bills in his face last week, and he still threw dimes. And I have a feeling this is going to be a very competitive game between the two. I do believe there's going to be a lot of points in the air, or passes thrown in the air, a lot of points on the ground. And it's a huge, huge rivalry game between these two. Right now, the Rams have a 2-game winning streak. I mean, you just knocked off one of the best teams in the AFC. A team the 49ers had no answer to 2 weeks prior. Or beginning of the month, excuse me. Yeah, 2 weeks prior. And then just thrashed a Bears team. I'm sorry, Bears fans, so that's not really the high mark you really think it is. Right now, analytics favor 49ers at 61%. Right now, they have a 2.5-point spread advantage. The Rams play them tough no matter where they're at, and there's going to be no difference. I'm taking the Rams to win on the road to itch them closer to Seattle to get in that position to maybe upstart and maybe sneak in the playoffs of division champs. I do think the 49ers will make this close. They'll just fall short, but they'll have plenty of time to bounce back for the rest of the season. But I think the Rams will edge out the 49ers. So let's head to Sunday. To kick things off, we got the 12-1 Lucky Chiefs heading to the shores of Lake Erie to take on the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland needs to clean up their act because the game against Pittsburgh was atrocious. They had so many issues that should have happened. But James Winston has really got this team really kind of fired up. Now, they have lost 2 in a row. They were outgunned in Denver. But they shocked the Steelers. And then just, the dirty, a couple weeks ago and the dirty laundry last week. So, but Cleveland's just one of these teams that just seems to hang around and challenge them. And if you look at the Chiefs and you look at their schedule and look what they've done recently, back on the 10th of November, they blocked the field goal for Denver. They went to Buffalo, had no answers for the Bills. They went down to Charlotte, the 24th of November, had to win on a last-minute field goal. The Raiders came to town on the 29th. If they didn't have that muffed snap, and they could have lost that game. Against the Chargers last week, they had to bounce it off the upright to get in. This team has just been lucky finding ways to win. And that's what you have to do. Just win. Doesn't matter how you win, you just win. I do have a feeling Cleveland's going to make this more of a game than what the experts really think. Now, on paper, Chiefs should just take these guys out and just have no issues with them. Cleveland being 3-10 should really put up a fight. But they do. And the Chiefs' luck is going to run out one of these days. Pacquiao back in the backfield has really helped Kansas City kind of dictate things. But beyond that, don't know. Right now, analytics favor Kansas City 59%. The spread has Kansas City at 6.5. Once again, I'm bucking the trend. Once again, I'm just making silly decisions. I'm taking Cleveland to shock Kansas City as Kansas City luck runs out. To Nashville as the Bengals finally getting that win, getting, back in that win, that W column, breaking that losing streak they were suffering on for losing 3 straight and just putting up phenomenal games and just have nothing to show for it. Tennessee season kind of took a little question mark when Will Levis got hurt, and so he's questionable for this week. And Tennessee, the only bright spot they have in that offense is Troy Pollard. But Cincinnati has a little bit more. Their offensive line is porous, but Joe Burrow still finds ways to do it, even getting face masked. And once again, NFL has a hard time seeing the face mask, seeing the quarterback's head get turned around 360 like they're possessed. But we'll quickly throw a flag on offensive linemen not quite lined up correctly. So, priorities a little skewed, I think. But having Jamar Chase and T. Higgins as your 2 primary targets is going to be a huge factor for Joe Burrow. Chase Brown should offer some, relief a bit, getting there. Calvin Ridley's talent's kind of being wasted right now in Tennessee. Both defenses are kind of susceptible. I think Tennessee's defense is a little bit better, but if you look at who they took on last week against Jacksonville, it's not really an offensive powerhouse. And they don't really allow a lot of points up there, except for, Washington that kind of, lit them up. But I think this is one of these games, once again, that Cincinnati should find favorable. They are favored 62% in analytics. They have a 5-point spread. I'm not going to push back on the spread. I'm taking Cincinnati to win. Sticking with, the experts on this one. We'll head down to New Orleans as the Commanders come to town. And with Carr questionable, it's their defense saved them against the Giants in a very poor game. But Washington is definitely a more talented offense than the Giants and will offer more of a challenge for that defense. And I do think that Washington will find ways to win. I don't think they put the numbers like they did against Tennessee. I think this might be more what they did against the New York Giants, where Washington beat them 27-22 in a very ugly game in which Washington ended up winning. Right now, analytics favor Washington by 70%. Point spread is 7 points. Washington advantage. Once again, I'm sticking with the experts. I ain't picking Washington to win in the Big Easy. Now we head over to Charlotte, back up to New York where the Giants play host to the Ravens. And with this one, this should be a game that Baltimore should have no issues winning. And this is going to probably be a trap game. Baltimore probably will struggle, do stupid things. That's what they tend to do from time to time. But they've lost 2 of the last 3. They need to get back on the winning side of things. I mean, the way they handled Philadelphia, they should, been more into it with Philadelphia than they were in the beginning and just let them come back. They had a week off to kind of look themselves in the mirror, look each other in the eye, and figure out what do we need to do as a team to move forward. I think this is the time for Baltimore to get back to the promised land. Like I said, this is my Super Bowl winner. This is who I picked to win it all. And right now, they're not looking like it. They're throwing away, the MVP numbers of Lamar Jackson, MVP mention of Derrick Henry. Those 2 together, this team should be winning a lot more games than what they have. Defense kind of let them down a little bit. A few miscues on how to handle the offense has let them down a bit. They need to get back on it. The G-Men is a great way to get back into it. Analytics favored them by 81%. They have a 14-point advantage. I'll push back on the points. I don't think it'll be 14. I do think it'll be double digits. But I am taking Baltimore to win in the Big Apple. And now we head to Charlotte as the Panthers play host to the Cowboys. This one should be interesting, but Dallas lost a few more defensive players. Overshawn is out. He's got to have surgery, torn quite a bit in his knee. Carolina is one of these hungry teams. If you look at their last 3 games, yes, they lost all 3. 3 points to Kansas City. Kansas City had to use a walk-off field goal. 3 points against Tampa Bay. It had to be in overtime. 6 points to Philadelphia. So they are right there. They are stepping into the fray. And Dallas, I think, is one of those teams that could provide them an opportunity to get back in that win column. Because after that bye, they lost their momentum. But they're still putting up these huge numbers. Bryce Young is really starting to thrive now under the system, starting to develop more into the starter that I think a lot of people really expected him to be when he came out of college. Analytics favor Dallas, 53%. But the spread follows Carolina at 1.5. So almost a coin flip. Because of Carolina's play, the way they've been playing good teams, Dallas not one of them. I'm taking Carolina to win at home to knock off the Cowboys and get them their 4th win of the season. Now we head down to Jacksonville, where Mac Jones will be starting, taking on an old team he's very familiar with in the New York Jets. Not so much the quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. But this should be an interesting development. Jacksonville actually went to Nashville and won, which I don't think anyone saw coming. No one saw that coming. No one really saw that the Jets, the past 3 weeks, have been in the games and just can't seem to close them out. Let Indianapolis come back to win. Couldn't close out Seattle. Miami went in overtime. 3 decent teams. One of them probably even a playoff team. So now they're going to take on Jacksonville, who was limping in there. Lawrence on the IR, Kirk on the IR, Hodges, Mulra, Davis. I mean, you look, it's just a mash unit right now. Brees Hall for the Jets may be questionable. Sauce Gardner could be questionable. So the Jets have found themselves possibly a little exposed to Mac Jones, who is familiar with them. Right now, analytics favor the Jets at 63%. Point spread have the Jets favor at 3.5. I like that as well. I'm also going with the Gang Green to get back on the winning side and knock off and cage the Jaguars. Now we head over to H-Town as the Miami Dolphins' slim playoff chances come to town to take on C.J. Stroud and Houston, Texas. And Tua Tagovailoa is really starting to thrive once again. He's risen to the abilities to get this team back in the postseason. I mean, they have slim chances because, Denver's up on 2 games on them right now in that playoff race. And any misstep could mean disaster. But Houston hasn't really been playing that great these past 5 games. And that could also play in a factor in this game. I mean, they squeaked past the Jaguars. Lost to Tennessee. I mean, they dominated Dallas, so they got that under their belts. Got edged out by Detroit. The Jets caught them with their shoes untied. So there's definitely some issues right now in H-Town to get them focused and going forward. Part of it could be because of Nico Collins being missing for a chunk of those games. So I think this is going to be a lot tighter affair. I do think Miami will push Houston to the limit. This might come down to a last second or overtime. But right now, analytics favor Houston 55%. Point spread, give it to Houston at 2.5. I am also being very cautious in this game as well because I can see this game going either direction. But I am also going with the experts on this one. I am going to pick Houston to win a very, very close contest. We'll head to the Mile High City as the Colts will battle the Broncos. As Richardson will take on Knicks in a nice quarterback bash. And way Denver has really starting to thrive, especially at home. I mean, you look what they did against Cleveland. There was just an aerial show. Especially between Sutton and Knicks. I mean, they hooked some pretty deep balls in that one. I do think Taylor and Richardson should keep this a little bit closer, especially a dual threat running attack between those 2 guys right there. It'll definitely make things interesting. Give the Denver's defense a lot to process, trying to contain both of those, that rushing attack, and have Richardson beat you with the arm, which is not a wise decision because he can throw the ball deep. And we all know that Denver is susceptible to deep passes. James Winston was famous doing that last time Denver played. But right now, analytics have a 57% advantage to Denver. They have a 4.5-point spread. I will also go with Denver to win this game, but I think I might take Indianapolis for the points because I do think it's going to be a lot closer than 4.5. These 2 will definitely air it out. Well, I think Indianapolis will make as many mistakes as Cleveland did, so this definitely will be a closer affair. I won't be surprised. It was like a 38-35 victory, but I will be going Denver. And then the Bills will have another tough NFC opponent to take on as they head to the Motor City. They take on the conference-leading Lions, who continue to find ways to win. I mean, they had that great match against Green Bay where they went back and forth and won. The game against Chicago, they should have lost. Definitely were way too much for Indianapolis, Jacksonville. Find ways to win against Houston. So unlike Kansas City, they don't find themselves lucky. They find ways to win. I mean, I think the only lucky game they had right there in that 5-game stretch was Chicago. And Buffalo just got outgunned by Matthew Stafford. But I have a due feeling that Goff, who does tend to throw a few more picks than he normally does, so far he has 10 this season. Of course, having 5 in one game really kind of, elevates that number. So he doesn't really throw it a lot. Cook was kind of not heard of much against the Rams. But Allen, being that dual threat he was, 3 in the air, 3 in the ground. You don't really see that much with quarterbacks nowadays. But definitely going to be a very close, contested match. I think Buffalo wants to reestablish dominance. And the only way to do that is to knock off the Lions and try to beat Craven the Hunter. Right now, analytics favor Detroit at 58%. Point spread have it at Detroit at 2.5. I get it. I understand why. Detroit just seems to find ways to win. Campbell's got these guys playing. Look what they did against Green Bay. Always going for a 4th down. Gotten 3 of the 4. Even going for it deep in your own end of the field and still making it. He's not going to be as aggressive with Buffalo. I'll throw that one out there. He'll probably play a little bit more closer to the chest. It's because it's not a divisional opponent. This could be a possible Super Bowl matchup, too, the way these teams are playing. So let's keep that in mind. But I'm going to go against the grain in this one. I think Campbell's luck is going to run out. Sooner or later, he's going to get beat. Buffalo and Josh Allen definitely going to be one of those teams that could actually do it. If that defense can lock things up a little bit better in that secondary, that'll definitely help out a lot because they couldn't do it against the Rams. And some of the throws that Stafford's throwing, would have worked against lesser quarterbacks and lesser receivers. But Amon-Ra Brown finds ways to be contributing to the team. And just one of those things, I think eventually the Lions are going to lose again before the end of the season. And this could be the game they do it. I'm not 100% in this choice, but I am taking Buffalo. But I think it's going to be a very close game. Like that Rams game was only decided by 2 points. I think it's going to be like that. But I'm going to take Buffalo to win in the Motor City. In a Keystone State showdown in Philadelphia between the Steelers and the Eagles. And the Steelers have not won there in like the last 5 trips. And it's been a very long time since Pittsburgh won Philly. George Pickens is possibly not going to be able to play in this game, which will eliminate a key receiver for the Steelers. Freiermuth is a fine addition and would definitely make Russ happy. The defense is going to have their hands full because they got to worry about Saquon Barkley. If they can't stop Saquon, then Jalen Hurts can find ways to elude and extend plays. He can do it with his feet. He can also do it with his arms because Hollywood Brown definitely looking for a little bit more receptions. He was the highest receiver last week, but couldn't crack 50. So there's definitely some the passing attack by the Eagles is a lot lower than a lot of other teams because they rely everything on the ground. That young defense is really starting to thrive, especially with the Georgia boys really starting to enforce their will. Now on the other side, you have Haywood and Watts back there doing the same thing for the Steelers. You have Russell, the wise old veteran, leading this team. And they've been doing extremely well. The only snafu they had was against Cleveland on a Thursday night in the snow. And Pittsburgh has a long stretch of games in rapid succession. That's really going to test their mental. But if you look at some of Philadelphia's wins, especially when they went to Baltimore, with that defense is able to walk away with the victory. I think there's definitely advantages here. Analytics has a 61% for Philadelphia. They have a 4.5 point spread as well. As much as I want to buck the trend on this one, I am going to go with the trend. I am going to say it's going to be close, so I might take Steelers for the points. I'm going to take the Eagles to win at home. Now we head to the desert where May and the Patriots come to town to take on Kyler Murray and the Cardinals. And the Cardinals really have to rebound from the fiasco they did last week at home against Seattle, where they just had no answers for the running attack. So they got to find ways to make sure that Stevenson doesn't run amok as well. And if you look at it, the Patriots have had some bad success or bad games. I mean, the Colts, they could have won but just fell short. Same thing against the Rams. They put up good numbers. Tennessee, they lost in overtime. So the Patriots tend to put up good numbers. But I think Arizona is a little bit more talented. But I think New England's definitely a machine that's very well oiled, that's just not quite ready yet. It's there. It's getting there. Starting to get the pieces in place. Right now, analytics favor Arizona at 72%. Point spread, 6.5 for Arizona. I am also sticking with the experts. I am taking Arizona to win in Arizona to keep in the NFC West divisional race. Head out to SoFi. The Chargers will play host to Tampa Bay in a very unique aspect. Mayfield returns to SoFi. He played part year with the Rams. So he knows the area, but the injuries right now on the Chargers are starting to stack up, and Herbert is questionable because he got banged up quite a bit against the Chiefs. You still have Perryman that could be out for the linebacker wise. Not to mention McConkey also being out. So it's a definitely mash unit for the Chargers. The Buccaneers always seem to find ways to win. They're always close, even in the past 5 games. The 2 games they did lose, those other games, was Kansas City and San Francisco. And it was by 1 score each. So they continue to find ways. They struggle in Charlotte, but I think Charlotte has proven that they can take on pretty much anyone and give them a fight. The Chargers have been bouncing back and forth between winning and losing. Right now, analytics is pretty even. 51% for the Chargers. Point spread's also in favor of the Chargers by 3. Just because of Chargers, because of Herbert, because I think Herbert will play, but he's like just one bad hit and he's out again. But Baker always seems to find ways to keep it competitive, put up the numbers, get his team into position to win. And that's where they have problems with, is closing out the deal. But they're always a great salesman beforehand. They're just not the closer. But I have a feeling they'll be able to close this one. I am taking Tampa Bay to win in L.A. Right now, they're leading the South. They need this win to maintain their lead and try to, push other teams out of the race. But I am taking the Bucs to win. Now we have to Puget Sound as the Seahawks play host to Green Bay in a possible playoff matchup between these two. Seattle right now is leading that NFC West by a game over the Rams. They already know if the Rams would have won by this time frame, they pay attention. Green Bay is just kind of sneaking around in that NFC North. I don't think they're going to win the division, but they'll definitely find themselves into the playoffs. Unfortunately, as you can tell back here, you see him over here, not a big Packers fan, but, you got to give him credit when credit's due. And right now, Love finds ways to win. I mean, he does make some errant throws. He does have 11 picks in the season, which is still less than Geno's. Jacobs find ways to run, find ways, but Walker being injured for the Seahawks doesn't matter. Charbonnet stepped into the role very nicely. Thank you very much. You still have Smith and Najaba and DK Metcalf for Jalen Smith to throw to. The defense is going to be a huge factor. And for Green Bay actually having some questionable secondary and linebackers could help Seattle, make this more of a contest. Right now, it favors Green Bay analytically at 63%. Green Bay is also favored in the point spread at 2.5. This will be a close contest. I think this one's going to be a lot. Could come down to a field goal. I think it's going to be that type of a scenario. Seattle has been running high very well. I mean, that 30 points against Arizona. I don't see them running all over Green Bay like they did against Arizona. Struggle against the Jets, but find ways to win. Struggle against the 49ers, but found ways to win. And you look at the Packers, they got sandwiched in between the line losses. I mean, crushed Miami, crushed San Francisco, edged out Chicago, which they should have won. Bears should have won that game. And crushed by two games against Detroit in last week, going blow for blow, but just couldn't close out the deal because Campbell was just gambling every chance he got and winning most of the time, beating the house. But I think I'll go with the experts on this one. I do think Green Bay is going to find ways to win, but this is going to be a very highly contested game, probably a very enjoyable game to watch. Now, I think it probably will be like 3 points or less, like the spread's stating, and I am also going with the Packers to win in Seattle. And on Monday, we get a double dose of Monday Night Football. We'll kick things off in Twin Cities, where the Vikings play host to the Bears. I'm not going to spend too much time on this one. We would have thought the Bears would get a bump after cutting the Flus loose. But the caboose just dragged the whole Bears train, hype train down, and they just fell off the tracks as the 49ers just obliterated them. Sam Darnold's going to do the same thing. This is going to be ugly. No question about this one. I mean, last time they faced off, Minnesota had to go overtime to win 30-27. I don't expect anything. I expect similar aspect as they did against the 49ers. Chicago's just going to struggle. They may get more than 13 points, but I think Minnesota is just going to find ways to exploit that Bears defense. Analytics has it 65% Minnesota. Minnesota has a 7-point spread. I think it's going to be more than that. I really do. I do think Minnesota's just going to run away with this one and probably punch their ticket into the postseason with a win. And then within things out there in Las Vegas, as the Atlanta Falcons come to town, take on the Raiders, and the Raiders right now are having quarterback issues. There's Minshew's on the IR. O'Connell's questionable. Ritter is actually, I think, slotted to start. But, Max Crosby's got to pick whether or not to sack Kirk Cousins or stop B.J. Robinson. And if Kurt can limit his mistakes, which is a huge ask, coming to Kirk Cousins to say, hey, stop throwing to the other team. You got to put more points on the board if we start doing that. Analytics favor Atlanta at 56%. They also give them a 4.5 spread. If Kirk Cousins can limit his mistakes, not throw too many interceptions, keep Atlanta in the game. So you look at the past four, they've been on a 4-game loser streak, and it's just been disappointment after disappointment, and it's because of Kirk Cousins. He is the reason why. But I have a feeling this is going to be his bounce-back game. He's probably going to throw more interceptions than touchdowns. I'm just going to throw that out there. Right now it's 17-15 for the season. I think by the end of this game, it's going to be even. But I will give it to Atlanta to win in Vegas to keep pace with Tampa Bay in that NFC South. Well, there you go. That's the full slate of games. A lot of key contests going on. A lot of heavyweights going at it. I know I went on a limb on a lot of these games. Kind of bucked the trend a bit, but, it's just sometimes you have to go against the grain. and just kind of see how things play out. Like I said, I think the Rams could win Santa Clara. I do think Cleveland has a shot at knocking off Kansas City, despite the record, just because how Kansas City just living on the edge. They're going to trip up. It's going to happen. Maybe not now, but it will happen. I've been picking them losing games, and they always find ways to win. So it's probably going to bite me anyways. I know, but sometimes you got to take that gamble. And we'll see what happens moving forward, and these playoff races will get tighter and tighter. This team start to get taken off, and some will start preparing for the draft. Let's see who's going to get the Genty or Shedeur Sanders or Travis Hunter. But hey, let me know which games are you looking forward to. Which games do you think I got completely wrong with my picks? Like I said, I have a few of them, so it might be a couple. Is your team still in the playoff hunt? Are your picks for the Super Bowl still alive? Let's mix it up in the comments below. The more we engage, the more it boosts the algorithm for this video, the more it gets out to the masses, the more people get the joy, the ramblings, and the side missions, and the butchering of the English language. If you like what I do and you're still here, go ahead, hit that thumbs up. Greatly appreciated. Another way to support this channel is to subscribe. Now, when you subscribe, it doesn't cost you a dime. It's absolutely free. One of the few things in the world today. You click that subscribe button. Click that bell icon, turn on notification, let you know next time I post any more content on my channel. And I'll see you next time on Chat Sports Talk.